I've just been sitting here. I've been sitting here not pressing the record button, sitting here trying to let some thoughts coalesce even more. I'm realizing I'm still processing the album. Quaranta, I can't pronounce it. 40. 40 by Danny Brown. I saw Professor Sky posted an hour-long review. I haven't watched it yet. And I was like, goddamn, how do you talk for an hour on this? And then I started thinking about it as I was staring at the camera, waiting to press record, going, oh, yeah, it'd probably take an hour. It's really kind of incredible to have a 34-minute album do what it's done. You know, I wrote down, one of my notes here is it doesn't feel like a 34-minute album. Is it actually 34 minutes? Yeah. It doesn't feel that way. You know, when I put it on and listen to it, usually the compliment for me is if an album is an hour, let's say it's an hour and 10 minutes and it feels like it goes by in 45 minutes or like that's incredible, right? Like what a great ride. It's so good. And usually if an album feels like it's longer than it actually is, it's a result of maybe it's, you know, it runs it's a little bloated, kind of doesn't really do anything interesting in the middle maybe or whatever. But no, 34 minutes. It feels like I don't want to say it feels like a lifetime, but I feel like I'm experiencing a life. I feel like I'm experiencing this portion of Danny's life. And I haven't really been able to pin down how or why, you know? Like sometimes in music and in art in general, there's these subtle mechanics at play. You're aware of them. You know it's there, you know it's happening, but you don't know exactly how or why. You know, if the painter would have done this instead of that, it forever changes the painting and now it doesn't grab you the way it does. The sculpture, if it doesn't have this weird jagged edge off to the side, you know, there's just these elements and it's like, but why? I don't really know. With 40, I think it's incredible to see where Danny is now-ish, right? I guess from what I understand, this was kind of, a lot of this stuff was during the pandemic and the thoughts that he was dealing with then. So in terms of subject matter, this album might be a year or two old already, just in terms of Danny, his processing, emotional state, thoughts, etc. You know, he's recently gone through rehab, so this was before that. I honestly had to like do almost like a soft reset. You know, Bass Jam hit me so fucking hard. I mean, God, it was just like slamming into an emotional wall. Well, I don't want to say wall. More than that. It's like bursting forth from a wall, I suppose. The wall comes down. And I had listened to, you know what I'm saying, prior to this album, and I'm glad because you think about 30, Atrocity Exhibition, you know what I'm saying, and then this one in Bass Jam to be the last song after that whole run, the final song you hear, you know, where we kind of temporarily end with Danny. And it's just such a beautiful summary of so many of the things that he's discussed in these songs. And I think that's why this album feels longer than what it actually is because, you know, in literature, there's kind of a rule of the more you say something, the less impact it has. The more you really try and shove something onto the reader, the less interested the reader becomes. And I think Danny does a great job here of just hitting these topics. You know, Jen's terrific vacation coming after Young, Black, and Poor. You know, the first topic is just, you know, being poor and struggling and growing up in this neighborhood, and now all of a sudden it's being invaded. And just letting those two ideas sit right next to each other. And you can almost experience that. You can almost feel that, even though I've never lived in any kind of situation like that. And then he rolls into Down With It. You're talking about losing this girl who he loves. He realizes he loves her now. And Celibate's cool. You know, honestly, like I was saying, my thoughts are still very scattered. You know, Bass Jam hit me so hard, and I kind of forgot about the first half of the album. I love. Well, the opening track, Quaranta, is great. Ain't My Concern. Actually, even Tantor, initially on the reaction, hearing that one track, it felt a little out of place. But now it's like, I don't know. To me, it all rolls together really well. Ain't My Concern's great. I love the production on Dark Sword, Angel. But then Shakedown, Hanami, bass jam, fuck, man, it's just incredible. And again, I can't, it's almost more of an experience. If you take any one of these songs and just kind of like throw them into a playlist or whatever, it doesn't have the same effect. This album is a great example where the sum is greater than the whole of the parts. There's some sort of coalescing of emotion and experience in life that happens. And then when you get to bass jam and then I love too how it just stops and it's like, it's over. Because even that in itself feels kind of like life. It's going and it's going, and then you start to realize shit, and all of a sudden it's over. It's gone. What happened? I don't know. It's gone. I mean, that's so many things in life happen that way. There was a line, I got a comment somewhere, I can't remember where it was, but on Genius it says, hold up, that's my jam. Playing one more gig. Playing one more gig is what the Genius note or the lyric says. But somebody said the comment, I think it's saying, play it once more again. Play it one more again. Like, I'm here, that whole song, the idea of expressing emotion with family members who apparently don't really have a strong way of communicating these feelings directly. Listening to these songs, expressing these emotions. Oh my, just being in love with that moment and that experience. And of course, play one more song. Play one more song. Don't let this end, But then I think too, even the idea of hold up, that's my jam, play one more gig, I think that rings true also. I mean, Danny's talking about he's turning 40, time don't wait for no man, that's why you can't waste time. He's getting older. He's seen, not necessarily the end of the road, but he's seen, oh shit, there is an end to this at some point, somewhere. So the idea of play one more gig, it runs to me very parallel to the idea of being younger, being with your family, these magical moments where you're sharing emotions with each other through music. Let's play one more song. It's cool. There's so many fucking incredible parallels, and there's so many subtle additions to the concept of just Danny loving music, the impact music has had on his life, both emotionally, personally, professionally. It's just spilling over with that. Jen's, I just love too, Jen's, I'm looking at the track list so I see it. Jen's Terrific Vacation, Gentrification. It's a great little wordplay there. And then, specifically with Bassline, it's just one of the best fucking closing songs I've ever heard. Ever. Ever. And it's been neat seeing comments and people talking about they fucking cried with me and they're getting emotional. I mean, it's just such a powerful song at that moment in time. And I feel like if somebody were to just listen to it without understanding even a little bit about Danny, like, I don't know anything about the guy. I don't. I know very little. I don't know what he's been through. I don't know the struggles he's had. But just listening to his music, 30 and Atrocity Exhibition. And even, what I'm saying? There's some shit in there too. And then this. And then the close with that, it's like, God damn. It's just incredible. Just incredible. I mean, I really can't, off the top of my head, I really can't think of a song that concludes an album that has more power than Bass Jam. I mean, some people, you could say Pinocchio's Story. There was a comment talking about Pinocchio's Story. That one hits pretty hard too, especially now. You go through the college trilogy and then 808s and Heartbreak and knowing what happened to Kanye, and then even now, what is it, 15, 20 years later, Pinocchio's Story really has that hit. But Bass Jam's incredible. And it's just so beautiful. too. It's so beautiful. You can feel just the loving memories and the reminiscing. And what I love too is how even in that, it's not perfect. He's talking about how his dad's been gone for a week and just shows up with pizzas like nothing's happened, not be able, what is it like, not be able to talk about emotions, never hearing I'm sorry. There's just these things about it, but it's still beautiful in that moment. Still beautiful. So now the real question is, what next? What next for Danny? And I've been thinking about that as I've been listening to this album, because there's a huge part of me. I mean, almost all of me. It's like, well, I need another Danny Brown album. But what does that look like? I don't know. And I think that's what makes me so excited. A while back, I think it was because I watched the one with JPEG Mafia, the podcast, Danny and JPEG. And, maybe it was that one, but there's another one. I remember Danny Brown at one point talking about Lil Yachty and Let's Start Here, and kind of the idea of maybe those earlier albums by Lil Yachty he wasn't supposed to really put out. Like maybe Let's Start Here should have been his first album because it was received so well and it was so well done and all this other stuff. And if you agree with that or not, whatever. But I feel like this is almost not exactly the same thing for Danny, but not that he shouldn't have released all these other albums because they're great. So absolutely not. He should have put those out for sure. But I feel like this moment is almost a Phoenix from the ashes type of moment. Like you think about everything he's done up to right now. And now in his personal life, I mean, I'm assuming he's still going to therapy. He kind of hints at it a little bit on this album. Or was it this one? Or I'm getting, one thing too is I'm getting this one and I'm saying a little mixed up because I've been listening to both. Mostly this one. But, he's talking about I'm paying a therapist, but I'm still the same, but I'm doing cocaine. Now that the drugs are out, if he stays sober, if he keeps going to therapy, if he keeps digging into himself and finding these things, if he keeps living and processing emotions and all these different things, where's he going to be a year from now, 2 from now? What kind of person will he be? And I'm so excited at that possibility. I'm so excited about the idea of an artist going through 20 years-ish of all of that and surviving it and coming out, not necessarily a train wreck, but coming out definitely scathed. And then kind of in a sense, not necessarily reinventing, but this is what I've learned. This was something that kind of popped into my head as I've been thinking about this. Danny talks about legacy a lot, musical legacy, and he could really be a beacon. He really could. There's a lot out there in the music world. You hear from artists talking about just emotional suffering and filling holes with drugs and alcohol and sex and money and trying to kill off his pain. And it never fucking works. It never works. And what Kendrick did with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers was pretty fucking incredible. And I feel like Danny could do the same thing on a personal level. I feel like he could kind of be a beacon, a guide. He could leave a legacy of, look, here's what happens when you do all that shit. Here's where you end up. And this is how you get out of it. And what's neat too, the reason why I get excited about that rather than concerned is because Danny, to me, he's not a boring person. He's got a lot of energy. He's very unique. He's funny. He's silly. He can take it seriously and he can totally not give a fuck. He can exist in that whole range of space. And so because of that, I feel like if there was going to be an artist that could possibly do that, could go through this whole just chaos, whirlwind of life to end up here and then keep going and do whatever it is that he wants to do, I feel like he would probably be, one of the more successful people to do that. It's not easy to reinvent, and it's, especially if you're sober. Fuck, man. If you're sober and facing these emotions, if you're sober and being open and honest and putting it out in an art form, that's fucking scary. I think that's very, very, very scary, especially in this time, right? This society where everything's online and opinions are just constant. But, you know, there you go. You know, it's not necessarily the best review, I suppose, but I'm still really, I'm just kind of blown away. I'm just still blown away by this album. There's nothing that I expected at all. It's been neat reading comments and seeing people really love this project. Yeah. And, oh, man, it's weird because I want to both, you know, I want Danny Brown to like rest and get healthy and take care of himself and you know, get to a good place. Which he actually, I was watching a little bit of the podcast the other day of something recent, and he's apparently that's happening, which is great. But also, you know, the side of me that loves music and loves artistic expression and loves to hear people like him work through this and spell it out in such a creative way, such that I get so sucked into a 34-minute album, I feel like I'm living it with him. It's hard to be patient, you know? It's really hard. There was an interview with a member of Queens of the Stone Age recently that I saw, and he was talking about a friend another musician who kind of taken a break, and then they were coming back making an album, and you know they were chatting. He's like, the one musician was saying, "Yeah, I mean, essentially, I had to go live for a couple years." Oh yeah, sometimes you got to do that. You got to go live and get those experiences so that you now have something to write about and express. So maybe that's what we'll see. I don't know. And I don't want to imply anything in terms of his career, like whether something's coming sooner or later or not at all. Or I have no idea. This is just me as a fan, just kind of working through this. Well, there you go. 17 minutes. I don't even know what the fuck I said. It's not an hour. I need to put on Professor Skies and listen to him and see what he says about this. But god damn, what an album. In 34 minutes too. That's really the kicker for me. 34 minutes. You did this in 34 minutes. You made me feel all these things, and you captured me into your mind and in your world and your heart that quickly, that well, that concise. Incredible. Fucking incredible. I'll almost talk longer about the album than the album runtime. I have to update my Jammy list. So I have a thing I'm going to do at the end of the year, the Jammy Awards. The artist she's working on the Jammy jar and all that. So of course there's going to be, you know, albums for jammies and songs and stuff like that. And well, Danny Brown sure is in the mix twice now because Scaring the Hose also, right? And that's the other thing too. This is such a counter to Scaring the Hose. And I just gonna repeat myself. I'm sorry. That's why I get so fucking excited. Like he did Scaring the Hose and this. And I mean, it released in the same year. I think a lot of this was made probably before Scaring the Hose. But still, that's the same fucking artist. It's incredible. That's incredible. You don't see that kind of range, that kind of versatility, you know? It's like he can just fold into these different roles so well. Needless to say, but I'll say it anyway, I've become a huge Danny Brown fan this week. I mean, I loved 30 and I loved Atrocity Exhibition. Those are both great albums. But god damn, did he win me over this week. Wow. You know what I'm saying? And 40, fucking A. Absolutely. And Scaring the Hose, of course. Okay, well, there's my review. It's amazing. If somebody's watching this, you haven't listened to the album, I don't know what the fuck you're doing here. I think you're lost. Stop watching me and go listen to the album. Ah, Jesus. Okay, y'all. Take care. We'll see you soon.